Yeah. So what? It's your boy Bitz and Bobz. Welcome to another episode of Bitz and Bobz Meet. Tonight, even. Listen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, where you are. Please, if you're watching, please drop the city and the country you're watching from. Please drop a like. If you're new, please subscribe. I'm joined by a dynamo duo tonight, the two co-hosts of Beyond the Pitch podcast. Guys, listen, I've got Callum and I've got Phil in the building tonight. Guys, listen. Please, just a quick intro. Callum, you want to just let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Callum CFB. I run Football CFB, which is at Football CFB, and obviously I've been working with this legendary man for over a year now on Beyond the Pitch, and I'm sure we'll come to the story. So basically, I went from being a fan of the show, genuinely a fan of the show, as Phil knows, to now been working on the show with him. So it's been an incredible journey. But as I say, those are the main ways you can find me.
Perfect. And obviously, listen, the man himself, he's gracing me again with his presence, and I'm quite happy to say that it's probably on a more important matter tonight. So Phil, thank you for coming. How are you?
Honestly, lads, genuinely privileged. Anyone looking for me, if you're looking for me in the weekends, ring your nearest police station. There's a chance I'll be here. No, you found me at Malacans. In all seriousness, lads, thank you, Bobby, for doing this. Thank you to my co-host here, Callum, who, beyond my professional love for this lad, my personal love for him is off the charts. Just an amazing human being, and I'm fortunate enough to get to experience that on a daily basis. His kindness, his generosity, and the love he's shown me is I've gone through my own ebb and flow battle, and of course we fed off each other. And yourself, Bobby, who's been so kind to host this platform. In fact, you've done a piece, mate, that I really want to talk about that touched me very much.
Let's go into it, man. Let's go into it.
Well, you actually you were the reason why I recorded the intro on my own podcast yesterday, myself and Callum, because I saw that piece you done with Claude, right? Where he was talking about. I mean, I have to be honest, it made me very emotional. Watching that piece.
I still watched it today, and I've been crying since the news.
I looked at your reaction, actually. I looked at your reaction when you were in that. The sentence is damning, and it really is a perfect perfect response to that, where you're talking. What I heard was a human being in immense emotional pain, and you could hear it in his voice, you could see it in his eyes, and it was very, very painful to watch. And to me, the idea that there's human beings out there. I mean, the poor guy was talking about football and being the only thing he has in his life. Lots of people can understand that. And the idea that there's other human beings out there struggling, mate, that don't have people, just is such a painful thought for me. And social media has a positive, negative role to play. Positive in the sense that connects us, negative in the sense that, quite frankly, especially someone like Twitter, its tolerance for abuse is an absolute disgrace. We all experience it in different ways. I mean, we've had different levels of abuse, that is, but there's no question, Bobby, if you're a minority in any way, female, Asian, Hispanic, black, whatever, you get it worse. And it's incumbent upon all of us to create an environment. We talk about creating an environment where we remove the stigma from mental health. Well, we have to create an environment where that type of abuse, that type of commentary is going to be shamed. If Twitter and all these other platforms aren't going to do it, we got to do it, right? Because we talked about this on our previous show, where it is a disgrace that there's any type of tolerance for this or any type of space for people to try to justify it. So I think it's incumbent upon all of us to be better to each other and recognize that not all of us experience the world the same way, and the world doesn't treat us the same way. So I think it's important that we all remember our humanity and our brotherhood, and we reach out to each other.
Do you know you're right? And like, oh man, like I when I got told about Claude, man, seriously, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, the amount of people that checked up on me are like, "Are you okay?" and stuff, and I couldn't. The guy said to me, guys, he didn't feel like being here.
I know,
and I was just like, and the thing that bothered me is that I couldn't touch him. I couldn't be like physically. It's okay, man. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh man, I really, I'm just gutted because he in the short space of time I knew him, this guy was just just so genuine. And like, you know, you watch I watch it back. He literally said to me, I don't have any family. I've only got a few people. And I was just like, wow. And there's me moaning about waking up to do work, you know? And I'm just so sorry that he's gone. And I said that he'll be celebrated, but I want people to know that, like, see the abuse he took, even after every video.
It's not honest. It's bang out of order. It's totally unacceptable.
He was complaining, and people were still taking shots at him. And I'm like, just like leave him alone, you know. And I just think that when I watch it back, and I think to myself, like, I spoke to you a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I know, man.
We were just having a lot, and I just think, you know, people will come out with this. We'll say be kind, and you know, we want to, but like, I personally think like we need to do more. We really need to do more because, yes, we need to raise awareness. We need to do stuff like this podcast. We need to talk about it. Even if you've got 10 followers or 100,000, I don't care. You need to bring awareness because there can be a few people watching that going through the same problem that just needs to be touched and stuff. And Claude touched so many people that, you know, I've had people message me saying, I'm glad you've done that because I was able to relate to him. I could, you know, I'm getting courage in that. And like, do you know the damn fact that someone is gone now?
Yeah.
He's left us. And I don't know, man. Like literally, and like Phil, I know you've battled your demons, you know, Callum, you know, do you know what I mean? And yeah, Callum, sorry, yeah, you have, and it's just like I'm we're here to tell the story. And man, like I know I sent you guys an agenda and stuff, and to talk about like, guys, man, this guy's gone, you know, like he's really, really gone. And
lads, but and just to do quick clarification, I don't know how Claude passed. I don't know what.
I'm aware. They've. I don't know if I'm allowed to say. I won't say. Just to respect.
Well, I mean, mate, the thing is, the cause of death is unnecessary. At the end of the day, we know he battled mental health, right? And he's been quite open about that. And God bless him for doing so, right? But seriously, lasses, we got to do better than this, right? We have to do better, right? First and foremost, right? All the labels we put on people, just these are man-made labels. That's a human being with a beating heart, okay? And so when you're addressing another human being with a beating heart, if you can't treat them as a human being, you really have to have a whole long, hard look at yourself for the projection of your own ignorance, you know, and the fact that your humanity is limited based on the individual and what type of boxes they take. We have to stop this shit, this absolute madness, and the amplification of politicians that are dividing us. We are all human beings, right? And anyone who's a victim of abuse, right, whatever the nature of it, whether it's prejudicial abuse or whatever, every single one of us, it's not enough to condemn it in our heads and ignore it. We have to turn around and say, there's a consequence for this. We talk about free speech, but that doesn't exonerate you from the consequences of free speech.
Exactly.
And we're getting messages on here, Hammer United, mate. First and foremost, please, after this show, if you're still struggling, don't have anyone, direct message me, mate, and we can have a chat. But just to I'll let Callum come in here. Well, mate, honestly, all of us, right? I don't care what environment. The group and their morals and ethics determine the behavior of a group. If I go into, I've made this point before, let's say I go to the Etihad and I decide that I'm going to support United in amongst 40,000 City fans. It's going to be made clear to me very quickly that type of behavior is unacceptable. And I'm going to know before I do it, there's going to be a consequence for doing that. This is exactly how racists have to feel. This is exactly how scumbags have to feel that are online, that want to abuse other human beings, whatever it is, that they feel justified in abusing another human being, whether they're sexist, whatever it is. They have to fear the reaction of the group to say, if I do this, I'm not going to be accepted. I'm not going to be popular. In fact, what's going to happen is I'm going to get shamed, I'm going to get heavily criticized. There has to be a consequence to that. And honestly, all of us lads, we have to do better. I mean, I'll be honest, I've seen women online taking abuse on Twitter and turning a blind eye to it. I'm not proud of it. We got to do better. That's not acceptable, lads.
Nicole United, we've seen her get the abuse. We've seen Kendall Rowan.
Yeah, Kendall, lovely kid. Look, Kendall, lovely kid. There's too many of them. There's, you know, young Nicole Dean's not there. You know, Kendall, you know, gorgeous kid. You know, Amy. You know, all these young girls that are taking scandalous abuse from fellas. Lads, catch yourself on. You know, seriously, in some false sense of superiority about how the game of football belongs solely to misogynistic men. It doesn't. It's for everybody. And again, like, that's the next thing we all have to pay attention to, lads, because some of the abuse these young girls are taking is, quite frankly, a disgrace. They're young too. And, you know, I've got daughters. I would hope that some decent lads would stand in if some scumbag guys were, and girls that matter, we just can't be accepted. So sorry, lads. Callum, go ahead, man.
Callum, if you please come in? Obviously, we're both aware of yourself fighting demons, Phil.
Yes.
And do you want to just like elaborate just a little bit on your story? And obviously, I've got to ask, man, when you heard the sad news about Claude, how did it make you feel?
I'll be honest with you, and I agree with what Phil said. I watched your show and I watched the clip, and at the time, when you see something like that, it does hit you, and you take it in. But obviously, we don't know the cause of death, and we don't need to know. But when you find out that this individual has passed away, and it completely broke my heart, and it made me. I must say, I'll be honest, I've probably watched that clip about 10 times because it really resonates with me, and it reminds me of when I was struggling, and I reached out to people that I could trust, Phil being one of them, friends and family. And the thing that makes me really sad about Claude and people out there that are struggling, when they pass, we get to hear so many stories about how nice they were and how many people genuinely loved them, how many people genuinely had time for them, and the amount of stories. I know Arsenal fan or AFTV gets a lot of criticism. The amount of people that have said, forget when the cameras are away and all of this kind of stuff, he would speak to people, he was approachable, he would give time to anyone. If someone needed help getting to an event or whatever it may be, he'd be happy to offer advice. And the thing that makes me sad with all of these tragic events is he was such a loved man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But online, do we amplify that message of love and kindness, or do we amplify that message of selfishness at times and just anger over silly things at times? I mean, football's a game that we all love, and we've talked about Nicole and others who give their opinions in football. And to be fair, most of the time I'm reading these pieces and I'm learning from them, and I'm resonating with the views, but there is still that toxic element out there that just want to hammer down people for whatever reason. And I agree with Phil. I don't think we can any longer stand by and maybe just keep scrolling. I think it is time that social media companies and ourselves, if they're not going to do anything, stand up for our fellow human beings. Because at the end of the day, I watched the Caroline Flack documentary here in the UK last week, and I'm not ashamed to say, for the last 5 minutes of that programme, I was crying. I found it really, really tough, but I found it tough in a way that I hope lots of people watch that programme and realise that just because someone has a certain job, just because someone has a certain element of wealth or whatever it may be that they have, you can't just assume that everything is perfect in life. Phil always says money buys you comfort, it doesn't buy you happiness, and it's very true, because at the end of the day, I went through my struggles in 2019, towards the end of 2019. I had a great job. I had a great girlfriend at the time who's now my fiance. I had a great group of friends. I love my football. Everything in life that I could possibly have and want to be stable was there for me. But for whatever reason, mentally, I was really struggling. Claude told the story of not wanting to get up in the morning, etc. I had the kind of opposite effect where I would, when I was going to bed, I used to think to myself, "Oh, I just hope I don't wake up in the morning." I would never do anything to bring that on, but I just had this terrible inner sense of worthlessness and hopelessness to the point where I thought, if I don't wake up in the morning, thank God, the world will be a far better place without me. Let's move on. Now that obviously for me was
kills me.
It was alarming. And as I said to you guys off air, I was a fan of Beyond the Pitch, the show. I didn't know Phil personally. I knew his dulcet tones from being on the podcast. I didn't know him personally, and he's talked about mental health on the show. So I was really struggling, and Phil was one of the people that I reached out to. I sent him a message and just said, "Look, you've been talking about mental health on the show. I'm a massive fan of the show. Got a massive passion for Manchester United. I've got a massive passion for football, but I'm really struggling." And Phil, to his credit, said, "Okay, here's my number. Send me a message on WhatsApp and I will call you." And obviously, as I said, I didn't know Phil personally at the time, so you think to yourself, someone's been kind, but they're probably not going to follow through with that, you know. But to his credit, I messaged him and he called me, and he didn't know I was Scottish. He just knew from the message, and from that moment we just clicked. And this is before I'd even set up my own platform or any of this kind of thing. He spoke to me as a human being, and this is something I said on the show the other day. The most important thing that Phil did for me and my close friends and family did for me was listen. And I think sometimes that's a quality that's overlooked. Sometimes, like as Phil said with you when you spoke to Claude, Bobby, you listened, and that is sometimes the most powerful thing, because although he was really struggling, sometimes having a listening ear can make you feel an awful lot better, because if you're feeling really poor inside the way I was, I just needed to get that off my chest, and it took me a long time to see getting that off my chest as a sense of strength. And when people say they're struggling to speak out, I understand. If I'm being brutally honest with both of you, when I was feeling that way, I felt as if I was robbed of my masculinity, which I know I realise now with the strength of speaking out and going and seeking professional help. I now realise that is a silly thing to think. It's a silly thing to go through, maybe. But at the same time, in society, when I was growing up, I was born in the 1990s. I'm not ancient, but I was, when I was growing up, it was, be a man and don't cry. If you cry, you're weak. And if you need to go and ask for help or support, you're weak. You deal with it yourself. Everyone, the classic statement, everyone's got worries in life. Just get on with it. Yeah. But you can only say that for so long. And I found I got to the point where I couldn't say, I'll just get on with it, or next week will be better, or tomorrow will be a new day. Because as I say, I got to the point where I thought, if there is no tomorrow, fantastic, which is not ideal. So
Callum, it kills me to hear that, because obviously you can hear my accent as well. You're a fellow Scotsman, and I've been like in the black community. Mental health isn't talked about, and there's a reason why. Why
is that, man? Why do you think? I'm curious to know.
Do you know? It's because of what Callum said. Weakness. Yeah. You don't want to be seen as weak. You're the man of the house. There's a culture where the man's supposed to be the money, the breadwinner, and the provider, the security. So to even show like an ounce of weakness of to be fragile is abomination. And one of the reasons why I set this podcast up months and months ago is because I know what it's like to panic, to think, what am I going to do now? I don't want to do that. I can't do that. And then smile all at the same time. You struggle and you're weak, and you don't even doubt yourself. You just don't want to be here.
Yes, man.
The way I coped was obviously my family, and like for some people they don't even have that. And when I say my family, I mean my wife and our son. I don't have any parents, relatives that I can call on and stuff like that. All my relatives don't even live in Edinburgh. My close ones I speak to.
Is that 100% legit?
Today's not about me, but yeah.
When we get off this podcast, man, I beg you to take my number, please.
I want to talk to you personally. And I thought like what Callum said was to listen, and when someone listens to you, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
it's just a relief. You don't understand it, you know. And I thought to myself, how can I help, or how can I show people? Yeah, come and express yourself. How can I create a safety network, a zone, an area where you can speak freely and we can help? And I hate to go back to Claude, but I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I clicked, you know what you do. You put out snippets out of your podcast. You know, I was trying to break it down with him, and I started crying. I was like, has he just said that? I was listening. I was like, and I spoke to my wife. I said, can you hear? And she said, is he okay? I messaged him every day, and I was thinking, you know, like I need to like just make sure this guy's okay and stuff. And you know, Callum, I'm hearing you talk, and Phil, I know your story, and I'd love for you to share on it a little bit. It's like you don't just feel like you're on your own. The best way I can describe it is just that like everyone is carrying on with their life, and you are just there.
That's 100%.
And then what makes you think someone goes, hey, are you coming to football? Hey, what do you want for dinner? And you feel obliged that you have to put on this act. Yeah. And you're empty. You're an empty vessel. And
yes, absolutely. Exactly what I mean.
I seriously, I salute to both of you, because like I've said to you, I listened to your podcast. You know, I even read about you, Phil. I'm thinking, wow, how can I, you know, like I can really relate to this guy. And Callum, you know, I didn't even know about your story till today. You know, and what it kills you, man. And like, you know, I can go and say be kind and so much, but like people don't realize that.
Nah, Bobby, they don't, mate. And you see, Callum, there's a million billion Callums out there of people who have a story they're not talking about because they don't have what you're offering to people. They don't have a safe space, a platform where they're not going to get judged, where they fear reprisals for speaking out. And we talk about removing the stigma. But let's be honest, lads, when you've got an idiot like Piers Morgan saying that Meghan Markle's lying, if Meghan Markle got on TV and said she had cancer, not one of us would say a single would dare question that, right? So how dare Piers Morgan, or anybody for that matter, to say that woman's lying? Because therein lies the problem. If people don't like someone, they say they've got depression, then I don't believe you. You know, because it does. I don't want to believe you. You know, that bullshit has to stop. If someone tells you they're struggling, or someone like Meghan Markle struggling, saying, and I'm just using her as an example, saying that you know, I didn't want to be here, I didn't want to be here, you better believe it, right? People don't Meghan Markle doesn't need attention. Meghan Markle don't need
least of our worries, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's another problem here, mate, that really needs to get addressed, in that who we feel is entitled to empathy is typically based on how much money they make. We have to address this bullshit nonsense right away, that just because someone makes really good money, they aren't entitled to empathy. And you clarified this earlier, Bobby, by saying, which is 100% correct, money buys comfort, doesn't buy happiness, right? And the framing of certain people within the media who have money, which are deliberately pejorative framing, when, you know, which really needs to stop. So I think collectively, lads, we have to realize that this is a very serious problem. There's lots of people that are struggling, and you know, mental health in itself is very complex. It's very difficult to treat. I have some empathy, I must say, for the medical community in this, in the sense that, you know, here we're dealing with something that's entirely subjective. That we're talking about your thoughts govern the quality of your life. There's no question. Nothing governs the quality of your life more than what you think, right? Simple as that. So we're sitting here, we're looking at people that are locked into cycles of negative thought, because we're living in an environment where we're bombarded from advertisement, where we're constantly told we need to buy this to be happy. We can't possibly be happy unless we buy this or buy this or buy this or buy this or buy this.
Yep.
We need to have this type of plastic surgery. We've got scandalous depictions of beauty that aren't realistic. You know, you've got women that are running around feeling like they need to get liposuction and need to get a nose job and need to get, which is just total nonsense because they're beautiful the way they are. But society's constantly telling them they need to lose weight, they need to do this, they need to do this, and just having these scandalous, unobtainable levels of beauty. And women deal with this massive insecurity where they feel like their only value in life is based on how they look. So as they age, their value deteriorates, you know, whereas men get to age with distinction. All this bullshit, just utter nonsense, you know. And whereas you've got men, on the other hand, right, that are, you know, that are being punished for talking about mental health. Until I can walk into my employer, I'm self-employed, but until I can walk into my employer and say, I need a mental health day in the same way I can get, I need a day off because I've got a headache, and it's treated exactly the same, then we have work to do, lads. And I'm telling you, we have platforms where we're very lucky to have these platforms. We should amplify these positive messages. And just to address something, Bobby, that you said, and I'll finish up here, about the perceived weakness of getting help. Now, I'm very, very fortunate in that a lot of my friends are professional athletes, and a lot of them are professional boxers, high-end professional boxers that are, you know, Carl's one of them, right? But I'm not talking about Carl here. I'm talking about, there's lots of these guys that are struggling with mental health issues, right? Lots of them. And if a professional fighter is battling mental health issues and is willing to get help, then I think we can safely assume and say with a high degree of distinction that there is no correlation between weakness and getting help. All right? So, because these guys are as tough as they come.
Yeah.
And so we need and no question, and you know, the minority communities, people are suffering more, and when that has to be addressed.
And the only way I think to address it is this, to be honest. I'm not going to lie to you. I think the question needs to be asked, and, you know, it's an old school saying, but are you okay? And then say, are you okay? Can we create a network where I'm very fortunate. I've spoken to loads of people the last few days. They've been like, bro, are you okay? Yeah. You know, what can we normalize that? Can we say, instead of talking about football, oh, did you see Man United? Can we normalize the conversation of saying, are you okay? Like, feel comfortable to go into your group chats on WhatsApp and say, lads, I'm struggling. You know, we
completely agree. I love that, Bobby. You're right, mate. 100%.
We need to normalize that because, you know, for example, I've got a friend called Anita, and Anita messages me every second day and say, are you okay? And I'll say, I'm fine. And she's like, are you sure? I'm like, okay. And we do it with each other because we're checking in, because your mind plays games on you, but they're not. But you think that, you get so paranoid that you don't know why you're being paranoid. And then you're lost. You're so lost that you don't know where you are anymore mentally. And then you go on to Twitter. You read the comments that people say. And I break it down, guys. People log onto their phones, apps, their computers, laptops to type this abuse.
I know.
And, you know, and the sad part is that there's people out there that like it, retweet it. And I'm thinking, this is toxic. This is toxic. And
one of the ways I would look at that, and I've tried to look at it like this more recently, is if someone is willing to log on to their computer under an anonymous name or whatever it is they're doing to abuse someone, recently I've tried to take a step back and think, what's their mental health like? And you know, that's when people talk about social media platforms needing to provide identification, I think it's needed to actually potentially help people like this, because it's very easy for people to go on and just be feeling really worthless themselves and think, if I can go on and put out negative messages to other people, it'll make me maybe somehow feel slightly better. And I think a lot of people talk about ending abuse online, but when social media companies doing their bit, I think obviously getting people to have to identify who they are to these companies privately, obviously for instance, if you report someone, Twitter knows who it is, the police know who it is, they can go. I think you would maybe see a bit of a sea change where these people, when they have to put their name to it, might get to the point where they themselves seek help from a family member or their GP or whoever it may be, because if you're getting happiness out of trying to bring others down because you're feeling really sad, I think it's important that you get the help yourself. And one of the other things that's been mentioned, and this is slightly off on a tangent, so please bear with me, something that Simon Jordan said. Now, Simon Jordan's a polarising figure in the UK media, I accept that, but one of the points he made was anonymous accounts normally are the accounts that abuse, and normally are the accounts that try and trash other people.
Yeah.
Why don't Twitter or these social media companies put in an option where if you are verified, that you can choose actively not to see something from someone that's not verified? And then to Simon Jordan, he said on the radio today, then these people who want to throw rubbish at others would be able to do it, but the people who are on Twitter for the positive reasons to share their work or connect with friends or find out about news wouldn't see it, and then they would just be, his quote, howling in the wind. Now, that's maybe one option, but as I say, I think you have to go with the identification so that if someone is struggling, they can be pinpointed and signposted to a place that can help them. Because I always think if someone's going to throw nonsense at other people, how bad must they be feeling? I've tried to put myself in that situation recently.
Well, look, lads, I'm not perfect. I've bit people online before. Very, very rarely. I can't remember any time where I've bitted someone where I've been in a happy mental place myself. It's almost always as a result of my own mental mindset. And I agree that you do take into consideration when someone's pointing shit at you. But a couple of things. I would slightly disagree with Simon in the verified sense that I think everyone should have this option, right? Most people are not verified on Twitter. And I think there is an option where you can only comment on someone if you follow them. Where I like identification on this is for things like child pornography, right? Where illegal images that are being shared, that people can do this with anonymity and then disappear. All of a sudden, now you can track people, and that's not, they don't have the same luxury. So I would definitely agree with it in that sense. I think it's very difficult for Twitter to stop where someone says it's stop it being said before it's said, but you can't respond, and so I think people have to understand that there's zero tolerance. Anything along those lines will immediately get you banned, and I think that if you have a social media account, in my opinion, I would love to see like if I'm an employer, I want to know if you've got a social media account, right?
Yeah.
So you give me, I don't need your login details, but I'm going to follow because you're representative of this organization and our values, right? So I want to see that. And so for me, I think employers need to do more about their own staff going online. I mean, I've seen stuff put online, guys, with colleagues that I work with that, quite frankly, are a disgrace. It's not borderline bigotry and racism and borderline xenophobia. It's disgraceful levels of all three. And there's no fear because they work for certain companies whose executives also share those views, right? So I just think, that also needs to be a factor where if you say something online, you better be willing to defend it in the New York Times tomorrow morning, right? So there should be consequences that are far-reaching, which is why I like the identity thing. But guys, another thing that I think we have to do more about, which is really, really important, and I think it's a blight, and and especially low-income communities and what have you, is addiction. Right, and the misunderstanding of addiction because it's demonized, right? In fact, just the very nature of talking about getting off pills or any type of substance is mired to me in pejorative terms, such as getting clean. You're not dirty because you take a substance; you're already clean, right? So I don't like this implication that you're not pure, you're spoiled, you're dirty because you take a substance. You're not, all right. I don't believe if you have a glass of wine at night to take the edge off, You're not dirty, right? So we need to stop that, because it also reinforces the perception that junkies are worthless. They're just filthy, worthless people. Let them die under a bridge, right? And it also, people who in the media going back to the 60s, they demonized drugs in a way that gave people just to give you a quick historical context here, because America we talk a lot about addiction in America here, and just to give you, I'll do this quickly, guys, because it's really important this is understood, because the narrative around drug addiction in this country is very much misunderstood. People talk about drugs being illegal. Well, one of the reasons why drugs are illegal in America is purely for prejudicial reasons. So if you go back to the drugs are at the time out here, there was two very famous addicts. One was Billie Holiday and one was Judy Garland. And one was white, one was black. Billie Holiday used to sing a song called Low Hanging Fruit, which was essentially about African Americans being hung from trees. Judy Garland, of course, was white, and Judy Garland was a heroin addict too. Well, the drug czar at the time, his name will come back to me. I'll come back. I'll get to his name. Drug czar at the time. He was a flagrant racist, and in the end, he let Billie Holiday die in jail or in hospital because she got cancer, and he refused to allow her to be treated. Billie Holiday, on the other hand, was given rehabilitation treatment and everything. But then Harry Anslinger was a drug czar at the time. Harry Anslinger then goes to Mexico and says to Mexicans, if you don't make drugs illegal, because Mexico had no issue with drugs, then what we will do is we will go to our drug companies and we will not allow them to sell to Mexican hospitals. So therefore, your patients will not be able to be treated and they will die in agony. Mexicans had no access to pain medication, for example, and they were dying in agony in hospital. Eventually, Mexicans relented and made drugs illegal. Here we are. Okay, so the historical context around the demonization of drugs, even if you go back to opium and everything, is a result of anti-Asian sentiment, right? So, I would ask people to look at our drug laws and ask why. Should we be criminalizing people who ingest the substance? I don't think so. I think we need to change how we look at these people who take drugs, illicit drugs. Almost always is for self-medication reasons, right? Because once you're an addict, there's no happiness there, right? Yeah. So anyone who's an addict, please understand, they're not doing it because they love putting the feet up and getting high, right? Yeah. Most of the time, I'll finish up, guys. They're doing it to function, right? Through the absolute dreaded fear of withdrawal, right? And the fear that they cannot be happy without said particular substance. And understand that a lot of the commentary surrounding drugs has political motivations, and it's not a true reflection. For example, psilocybin and certain other drugs which have legitimate medicinal use were deliberately scheduled so that you couldn't even do research on them. So I'm just saying, for a lot of people have very, very harsh views on drugs and drug addicts and don't think there's any correlation between mental health and addiction. I can assure you they are. They go hand in hand. And I would say if you've got somebody in your family, because I get this a lot, lads, I'll get people reach out to me, say, my sister's an addict, and I go nuts at every time I find a bag, do this. I would say stop, okay? I would say if your sister or any other family member had any other illness, right, and she was going out to the chemist and buying, Excedrin or any type of over-the-counter painkiller, trying to take it, you wouldn't react that way. So whoever you're dealing with in your family who's an addict, they're sick, okay? So don't look at them like they're making a choice every day between sobriety and inebriation and saying, well, I'm going to get inebriated every day. It's not like that. So please look at an obsession of love and empathy and try to put the arm around them and help.
Well, as you say, Phil, and just to add to that point, when you look at someone through a judgmental point of view rather than an empathy point of view, that's what you'll get. I mean, to paint a parallel that would make it ridiculous, as you've said, if you turned up to A&E with a broken arm and they asked you, how did you break your arm? And it was for a reason that they deemed unacceptable, and they said, right, just go home and suffer. It would be ridiculous. You know, you no matter how you've hurt yourself, you are hurt, you are sick, we will help you and we will get you fixed as best we can. Why don't we look at that with mental health issues? Why don't we look at that with addiction?
Yeah, if you get an accident through the drink driving, same thing, mate. Sorry, go ahead. Yep.
If someone is struggling with whatever they're struggling with, you need to look at it from an empathy point of view and think, how can we help this person? The moment you bring judgment into it, then you're in a really dangerous place. Dangerous place.
And I will extend that, mate, even to the judicial system. Sorry, Callum, go ahead. Or, Bobby, go ahead, mate.
No, I want to ask you a question, guys. Okay. We all have platforms to talk about this, you know, the addiction, the sickness, and the mental health. I want to ask you a question, right? And I feel a certain type of way of this because it really, really bugs me. Why is it when someone's 6 foot under, we start to hear all the good things about these people from people that abused them, people that ignored them? I'm going to use Claude as an example here. I spoke to Claude, and I'm not going to share the conversation, but he said something on the show, and he said, I don't speak to some people anymore. I can tell you who I speak to. And also on social media, I'm seeing people do tributes and stuff. And I think to myself, are you saving face?
Yeah.
Or is this for your own conscience? Because if the time you've dug out a picture and then thought about what you're going to say, you could have just contacted them. So why are people like that? Is it a culture thing? Because when I was growing up, I was born in '89, Callum, so I'm a year older than you. And when someone passed
way better looking too.
Well, of course. Sharp. I like that, Phil. I like that. But like, I remember when I was growing up, when someone died, okay, we went to their house, or you knocked on the door, and for me, one of my childhood best friends, Craig, God bless him, his father died. I wrote him a letter. And basically said, I don't know what to do, but if you want to just do nothing, I'm happy doing nothing with you. Do you know? And like, just to be like, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say to you because I can't say anything because you're going to suffer. So why is it that we look to do this whole fashionable, great guy, gonna miss you, blah blah and stuff? Why not just actually try and contact the person? Or we don't even have to use Claude now, but like just in general, because for me, you can see I'm guilty of it. I've done pictures with people, but like I know myself, I spoke to that person. I contacted. So why is that? You know, to both of you.
If I was to just come in quickly in that, I think that one of the things that is dangerous, and again, we've used the word empathy quite a lot, and that comment there for themselves is true, because one of the dangerous things with social media as well is cancel culture, where, and I think Claude was a victim of this, and I think it's unfair. It's very easy to look at a comment from someone straight away and jump down their throat, as we've all said. You need to have a bit of empathy, and again, that's where someone being accountable for their words online would help, because if you're anonymous, people judge you as a troll or whatever because you're just throwing nonsense at people. Whereas if your name was to that and someone could sit you down or speak to you over the phone and just say, look, do you even realise what you have said? Do you realise the impact that could have? Whereas unfortunately, because of the anonymity of some people, we don't even get the chance to do that. And they're so hyped up in how they're feeling and whatever, that never happens. And I think cancel culture is something that is really dangerous. And I think that's why these people, as you've said, Bobby, do this, because they probably feel a bit guilty themselves. And then that's when the sort of face-saving element potentially kicks in, because they think to themselves, if I don't put something out, then I myself could be cancelled. So I think that's
why not just say, sorry, Callum, but see what I don't understand, and you can say I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I'm hopefully not. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, I think to myself, why don't you just keep the same energy that you did before and not say nothing at all?
So
I would agree.
But I do think I agree with you in the sense that we talk about culture, right? So culture is a bit of it. I think some of it is hubris, where people it's a bit of virtue signaling where people look at me. I'm an empathic individual. Don't ask me to do this. Yesterday, when the said individual was alive, I just didn't care enough. But now I do, because unfortunately, so much of what we do, mate, is theatre. It's ritual. It's theatrics. It's about people, wanting to be seen to be doing the right thing. And I think when we talk about our culture, this is a problem, and one of the problems is this is a vicious circle, because a lot of people that we're talking about are also fighting their own demons and their own battles, and are not quite sure how to make time for others, and so I've had this happen myself, where and this is where sometimes I get like, for example, I'll put something out on Twitter where I'll say, hey, if you're struggling, reach out, and maybe someone will 4 or 5 days later, but by that time I'm struggling myself. Right. And I'm not in a position to be there for that person. And then I feel bad, because I'm like, I put that out there, so it's not fair for me to ignore this individual. But I'm also in a dark place myself, where, how you just said there, Bobby, if you don't want to do anything, let's not do anything. Sometimes you just don't want to do anything. And so I sometimes you get caught in that, where I put myself out there for people because I feel okay that day and I feel okay the next day, but by the time some people get a hold of me, I'm not okay. But I always tell people, like, look, I'm not an emergency resource, because I can't promise you I'll get back to you right away. And a lot of these issues, you need someone right away. But I will be there for someone. If someone reached out to me and said it was 2 o'clock in the morning, if I'm really struggling, I don't even know who they are, but I'm really struggling, don't have anyone, can I talk to you? I'm getting up, right? I'm calling that person, because of the Claude. I'm not, if I wake up the next day, and maybe it's a selfish of me about my own conscience, but if I wake up the next day and something happens to that individual, I would never forgive myself, mate. I never would. And for someone to reach out to a stranger and say, can I talk to you? They have to be at a really low ebb, because most people won't do that. So for me, lads, it's honestly recognizing first and foremost our humanity. Stop the judgment, okay? We're all different. We all see the world differently. We have different habits. We're how we were raised was differently. I mean, Bobby, you have a truly unbelievable story, mate. And I'm really, I won't say excited, but I really, really want to learn more about you and your life and your story. You're an absolute credit to the individuals that are around you in your life. You're such a lovely human being, and your vibe is just so positive. So to come out with to confront the world and give that type of energy, man, really speaks so highly of you, and the fact that you're doing this. And I implore other podcasts out there, lads, is to do exactly the same thing. And as a community, we talk about Claude as with family. We have to let everyone know we may support different football teams, but ultimately we're all a family, right? We're all human beings, and so there's a place where you leave, your allegiances to a football team, and when it comes to real life issues, you leave your allegiances there. I don't care what team some human being supports. I don't care their nationality, their ethnicity, nothing. If you're a living, breathing human being and you're struggling and you don't have anyone, I want to try to make sure I'm there for you or give you someone, because that's the least we can do, and that's the least we should expect of ourselves, lads. We have to do better, right? And look, lads, all three of us have different identities, right? And there's people out there that are looking at this who see themselves in you, right? And who you can reach that maybe I can't, or vice versa. So it's really important, lads, that we are there for those people, right? As a positive influence in their life, and to help them and to give them your time. Nobody's too big to be giving someone your time, and you just never know. With Callum's story, Callum left out one major important detail, that his mother reached out to me first, right? And his mother was just such a lovely, lovely lady. And we got connected, and it was immediately obvious to me from the first second I talked to this guy that he was a special human being. And now to see his success really fills me with immense internal satisfaction.
Do you know, like, it's weird, isn't it? It's a situation we're in, guys. Pandemic, lockdown. Callum's in Scotland. Phil, you're in America. I'm in Scotland as well. All different parts of the world. We all look totally different. We sound, well, me and Callum sound a bit alike, you know, different cultures, different skin colors, different facial appearances. We bleed the same, and with our mental health, we've had problems, similar problems. That was in different ways, and like, you know, Phil, for me is, you know, I'm like, you know, I've had a rocky few days, and you know, I've squeezed my son. I looked at him. I squeezed my wife, and I think, you know, I look at them and think, you know, you can do this. But then some people don't have that strength. And what I'm trying to say is that, like, you know, I'm not going to say if you're not okay, don't be. What I'm going to say is that if there's any ounce of strength or any will that you want to scream or shout, the first name in your phone book, call them. The first person that you see, just speak up to them, because I can say I'm grateful and stuff, but I am. And you know, to many people that try and check up on me, I'm thinking, wow, you know, an old football coach messaged me yesterday. He gave me a massive pep talk, you know, colleagues at work and like colleagues in this YouTube game. And you know, prior to this, yeah, I've seen podcasts, okay? So we say something about football, the rivalries and stuff. And I see these things. There's a culture here where if you're a Man U fan, okay, and you're, I hate to say, Ollie in, you're deluded. If you're an Ollie out fan, okay, you're negative, or you don't like the club, yeah, or rival fans, when you talk to Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool fans, right? And I think to myself, this is toxic, because you don't know me personally, but because I'm affiliated with a club or think a certain way, you don't like me.
I know, man. It's so asinine. It's so stupid.
And I think to myself, so like on my channel or whatever podcast I'm hosting and stuff, I always communicate and said it's a conversation, guys. Feel free to say whatever you want, okay? But it's a conversation. Just remember that the next man or the next girl, okay, woman, sorry, might not agree with what you got to say, but they're willing to listen to you. And where I'm going with this is that I'm trying to create podcast vibes where we listen to each other. And that's what I think we do this generation. We don't listen to each other.
Yes.
Sorry,
no, man. No. I'm just emphasizing your point, because and just to make one distinction, clarification, there's a massive difference between hearing and listening. Okay. So when you listen to someone, that means you can repeat what they said. That means you are adjusting a fluid identity based on what you're being told. So if you can't recall what you've just been told, which a lot of this is important information, 5-10 minutes from now, you're not listening, you're hearing someone. And that's a big difference. So look, what I want to do, lads, going forward is I want to create a movement. I want us all to be involved in something, because like we've just said, we all represent different identities here, lads, right? Yep. And so it's really, really important that the people who are like us have someone that they can look at and say, this individual understands me, right? Yep. And the nuances that affect me, right? So I want to create a community, right, where if you're struggling, you can go to this website or whatever, and there's someone available for you to talk to. And I don't care if it's a professional or not. I just care that it's someone who's available, who's going to listen, right? Yeah. I want there to be a community for all of us, lads, lasses, people from different ethnic backgrounds, nationalities. Everyone's represented. We're all in, right? And we all help each other. And I think we can do it. I think you look at some of the exceptional content that's put out there by different platforms, you know, and I think we have the capability and the resources to be able to build something that we can all contribute to, that is about more than just like we were talking earlier, lads. You know, it's more than just recognizing the problem and then closing the curtains. It's like, you know what?
Need to solve the problem.
Let's do something, right? Because we all talk about this issue. And one of the things, boys, I'm consistently amazed about is just something simple, maybe a 2-minute video you put online and people watch it. And then the amount of responses that you get from people that really were touched. And I'll tell you something, guys, I've got messages, text messages, direct messages, what have you, from people you would never in a million years. These are high-end people that are working in football or other sports that everybody knows that are struggling, right? One of the things it also tells me, and I've got this, this has been demonstrated time and time again, is money's not the answer to your problems, right?
100%.
So these are people that are exceptionally wealthy individuals that are barely hanging on. So there's a massive need out there for this, guys. I'm going to be collaborating here. So as we go forward, guys, I want to get a couple of key people around the table. I want to get something, and then I want other big people to get involved to build momentum, and let's get something out there. That I have a podcast called "It's Okay Not to Be Okay." I don't record with it all the things. I just don't have time, but it's something I'm going to refocus my efforts on. And I don't care what the name of it is. It's not about my ego. It's not about anything other than getting something out there that we can all support. We can all get behind, do videos, do podcasts, what have you, get professionals on, and let's get this stuff. Let's do something, lads, because we are at a crisis here, and I want to get the girls involved, and I want them to be involved in this too. I think that this is something we've got to start, and we got to get this done now.
And listen, Phil, on that note, I know you need to.
Yes, man, I got to run. Sorry,
yes, I've dropped you my number. Callum, please stay on. Phil, I've dropped you my number. I'll after the show, I'll drop you a message.
I will WhatsApp you, big man. I will WhatsApp you, Bobby, and we'll have a wee yarn, we'll have a chat. Absolutely honoured to be on, lads. Callum, love you, kid. Bobby, love you, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Love you too, man. Seriously.
Cheers, lads. See you. Bye-bye.
See you. Callum, thanks for staying on. And guys, listen, the show goes on. Thanks for Phil for coming on. Callum, man, like Phil says that we need to do something. Diversity is key. So what's your thoughts on how a coping mechanism? I mean, should we start up like should there be something, because look, we can talk about their 40s and stuff, Twitter, Instagram, but I mean, we both know deep down they're not really doing anything, are they?
I think you're right. I think social media can do so much, but at the end of the day, you need to have conversations with people. I think, as we talked about the difference between listening and hearing, I think it's important that we have an opportunity to listen to people. And as Phil has said, at times you might not be able to be someone's direct emergency sort of contact, because at the end of the day, obviously, as you've talked about, you've got a son, you've got a wife, but what you can do is you can listen when you have that time. And if you don't have that time in that particular moment because you're at work or you've got family duties to attend to, I think one of the key things that's important is signposting. And as Phil talked about with professionals, I think it's important to normalise these things because they are completely normal. I mean, I used the analogy earlier on. If you fall and you break your arm, you're going to go to the hospital. You aren't going to sit for a week in absolute agony and think, where on earth am I going to go? And I think we need to get to a point with mental health where we normalise the situation of, I am really, really struggling here. I am not doing really well. I need to pick up the phone to an organisation, as you've said, pick up the phone to someone in my contact book or make an appointment or whatever it may be. There's no one size fits all for everyone, but I think we need to normalise, and as Phil talked about, if someone's struggling, you need to normalise that as being sick for a day, maybe at your work or whatever it may be. We need to normalise the fact that if you're not coping mentally and if you're not in the best place, it's the same as having the flu. It's the same as having an infection. You're not functioning the way you normally would because you are just feeling unwell. And the important thing to remember is, I don't like when people say, "Oh, it will pass," because it doesn't pass for everyone. Let's be brutally honest. I think it's important to know that if we approach this from an empathetic point of view, we can make progress. If we approach it from a judgmental point of view, then it'll be the same old conversations and the same old chats, etc. we have, because until we normalise that empathetic approach, then we won't make progress as a society. And I think, touch wood, there's elections in certain countries at the moment. I hope people are listening to these conversations, and I hope they act on them, because if we can start a conversation that people act on, then we're going in the right direction. But actions need to come.
100% actions need to come. And the thing about mental health is that, yes, it can be negative, but it can also be positive. For example, when I work out, endorphins, it's happy emotions. And Nicole from United She Stands has asked the question, lads, where is your happy place? Positive vibes. Callum, you're a guest on the show, so I'll allow you to go first. Where is your your happy place? What is like, okay, this is going to make me happy, or this does make me happy?
This is going to sound cheesy, and I promise I promise I'm not paid to say this.
Okay.
I genuinely find that for me, obviously, I've got a fiance. We're getting married in a couple of years' time. I genuinely find that being out, obviously, and about doing your work and obviously podcasting and stuff takes up my time. I genuinely just, as cheesy as it sounds, love having that time to spend together for just simple conversation, for watching something on TV. And one of the things you said earlier about your friend, which resonated, was that whole aspect of doing nothing but you're together. And as cheesy as it sounds, I find that even if we're doing separate things and we're together, that gives me immense joy, because that connection is there, and I just feel a sort of warmth, and I find that. And that's one of the things of the pandemic that's been really challenging, and that's something that so many people want back. Just that connection that you've got with close friends, close family, fiance, friends, whoever it may be, just knowing that they are there and they're a sounding board. For me, my happy place genuinely is being around people I love the most. And even at that, just like this tonight, just feeling that connection of another human being, for me, that's key. So that's what I would call my happy place.
Stop lying. It's because it's a Scottish accent, my friend. Tell the truth.
Yes, I agree.
Do you know, for me, is I'm quite a homely person as well. Well, I've become to be a homely person. Working out, when my wife says to me, right, we're working out and we do it together, and I say, oh, this is brilliant, isn't it? And she'll look at me, she'll be like, yes, I know, that's why I'm getting you to do it. That's why, do you know what I mean? But for me, it's like, yeah, and I think, like you said there, it does sound cheesy, but is it really cheesy, or is it just comforting to know that you are very happy in the presence or in the company of your loved one? And obviously, our son, I love watching him watch TV. I love watching him. One of my happy places is watching my son eat. Like, he's just, today he had corn. He had 2 corns in each hand and he was just eating. I'm just happy. I'm watching this little miracle just eat and be happy. So it brings me happy. And, Nicole said something about music. Mine's is, I love listening to music. I love listening to podcasts. I'm very bad for walking about with my headphones on in the house and just listening. And when someone says money, I'm like, huh? Yeah, man. Because music makes me happy, man. Music, 100%. And people in the comments, please let us know what your happy place is. And what you do to make you happy. And Nicole, as much as I want my show to be diverse, so Nicole, if you're available to come on, please let me know, and I'll send you the link. Hammer, I know, what's it called? We're going to do something as well, so let me know. Callum, in Scotland, right, it's tough, isn't it? As well as being everywhere else. The pandemic-wise, I mean, how have you coped through it?
It's been, I think the first obviously lockdown as such was really difficult, because and my kind of issue, I think, has always been around sudden change, because the sudden changes I've had in my life, my father passed away when I was 14, for instance. So the sudden changes I've been used to in life have always been changes that rock the boat and not in the way that you want. So initially I found it really tough, because like us all, we're going from going about our daily lives, going to our place of work as normal, seeing friends, going to the pub if that's what you enjoy, going to the cinema, whatever it may be, to boom, that's stopped and we don't know when we're getting it back. So I think that initial shock was big for me, but then I feel like doing football CFB, being on other people's shows, it really helped me, because even like this now, we're not in the same room together as such physically, but we are. And, I think that's something that's been a big help. And I think that's one of the positives that's came out of this. Not that there are many, I suppose it's been a challenging time, but I think that the technologies that people now know how to use are going to be a positive, because so many families that are maybe not connected geographically are now connecting through quizzes and stuff. And I think I think that's something that will continue after this. So I think, as I say, initially it was a real shock. And then I feel like I tried to take as many positives out as I could. I'd go on a daily walk, obviously communicating with people, whether it be through Zoom, Skype, whatever it may be, over the phone. I think the challenge, if I'm being brutally honest, is the longer it goes on, I think we're all feeling this. Music, football, food. I think we can all agree. Absolutely. I think that's the thing. The longer it goes on, it's tough, because you think to yourself, oh, when will it end, etc. But we just need to remind ourselves there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel. We've got everyone's got each other, especially the people that are connecting on here. These are people that can get in touch with us anytime on social media, whatever it may be, and have a conversation, because we're doing it tonight and we're really enjoying it. So let's make it more regular, and I think it's something 100%. That connection, as I say, I think is the main thing that will help us all get through. As I say, for me, it was initial shock, then making the most of it. Now, if I'm holding my hands up, a wee bit frustrated, because we all want to see a bit more normality. But light is at the end of the tunnel. We've got each other for the time being, and what I try and play in my head as a happy place at the moment is I just keep thinking of those moments when it is that sort of so-called normal society is back. I just keep thinking of that moment where you can go up to a friend and give them a big hug, and go to the pub, the cinema, a music concert, a football match, a cafe, a restaurant, whatever it may be. I just keep thinking of those moments in my head to give me that intrinsic motivation to say, we will get there. And when we do, let's make the most of every opportunity as if I've never 100%. Had one before.
100%. And do you know, what you're saying is fantastic. And for me, guys, all the people that are listening, what we're doing now is just having a conversation. And that's what we've been doing at the very, very beginning. I think the people aspect is just being able to have that conversation, but be physically beside each other, listen, 100% keen. If you're that's Keen Callum, and is my little brother, and he's my Irish little brother. And,
I know him well. He's such a lovely, lovely guy, and he's someone who I admire, because just like yourself tonight, a genuine human being who gives their all to what they do, and there's not a bad bone in his body or your body, and that's what I love. There is that sheer passion, and again, like you said tonight, that connection, that conversation, and I agree. I cannot wait until this sort of thing can become normal, where you can be in the same room again.
Yes, 100%, and like the conversation thing, I think I'm gonna conclude it towards the football here. So many people in this conversation right now support different football teams. I've seen Bertrand Supe, Arsenal fan. I think Jacob is an Arsenal fan. I can't remember. Ham United. Nicole, we know she supports Man United. There's different people in here that supports different football teams. And I mean, I'm not Jesus. I'm not Moses. I'm not even John the Baptist. I'm just a guy that wants to change the culture, or bring awareness to changing the culture of football. Sorry, Jacob, I do beg your pardon. He's a United fan. But I think I want to change the culture of podcasts to stop the screaming, to stop the negativity, to stop the toxic. Let's just have a conversation. Callum, I mean, who do you support?
So in terms of United, obviously, is a side that I've always grown up with, and that's something. But I get a lot of stick, obviously, So basically, obviously, being in the west of Scotland, I've a strong allegiance to Glasgow Celtic, which in Scotland, as you know, being in the country that we are in, is tough. But again, for instance, last week for a project I've got called the SPFL 42, I spoke to one of the leading Rangers podcasts, and they talked about Rangers winning the league. They talked about the successes, their points of view, and that's something that, again, we have to normalise as a society. It's something that is important because there is far more that unites us than divides us, and I think that's something that we need to remember. So as I say, west of Scotland, you get your stick. I've had plenty of it since I sort of started this for obvious reason. But at the end of the day, as I say, there's more that unites us than divides us, and I think that's important to remember.
This is the thing, right? And what I want, I've been on podcasts where it's just like, oh, you're an idiot, you're deluded, like you're talking rubbish, and it's just like, have you heard what I've said? Are you listening to what I'm saying? Let's get away with this culture. Yes, I'm a Man U fan, or you're an Arsenal fan, but like, we're all football fans. That's why we're on these platforms. So when it comes to my channel, I want to create an atmosphere where people enjoy coming on, wherever you support Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, okay, Man United, Tottenham, Arsenal, Liverpool, Leicester, Newcastle. I want it to be that you've came on my show on the channel and you've had a great conversation and you've left happy. One of the things that people always say to me when they meet me, that after I finish speaking to you, I feel motivated, I feel lifted, I feel happy. That's what I want, because mentally after that, you go about your business and you're positive. Positivity is contagious. And that's what we need to remember here. Positivity is contagious. And we need to, you might sound cheesy, but I don't care, because to me, I think this is very important. We need to push that positivity, because we smile, the sun comes out, everyone comes out to have a good time. We enjoy, we laugh, we drink alcohol, we eat food. I'm sure loads of us have done that this whole pandemic, eating-wise. So, we're all in it together. And this is the thing, we are actually all in it together, and we're still one race, the human race. And I want that to be a case where the safety zone called Bitz and Bobz YouTube channel, come and speak your thoughts and debate and have a conversation. And as you leave with making new friends, extending your social network. Keen's in Ireland, okay? I have no business to go to Ireland before I met him. Now, when it's safe to travel, I'm going to Ireland to visit him. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? We need to create these networks and these safety zones for people to talk, whether it be about race, football, discrimination, politics, whatever, I just think to myself, man, if you can do anything, try and do that, 100%. Like for yourself, Callum, when I put up that I was doing a show with Phil, you messaged, I went, if you're free, please jump on. I want to hear people's stories. I want to connect with people. And yes, that is the word family, unfortunately, some of us can't pick our family, but some can. And I choose to extend mine. Callum, just before we wrap up there, I just want to say thank you for coming on.
Absolute pleasure.
I love hearing another Scottish accent, so that's my bias out of the way. But no, seriously, thank you so much for coming on short notice. Let's do this again. Please tell me your schedule. Let's do this again, because you can talk about this for as much as you can. I think we still need to keep repeating ourselves till the message hits home. Till we start reaching everyone. Botche, the football capital, is all the way in Australia watching us. We had the guy from Malaysia, Hammers from America watching. Bro, we're reaching out to people, and I think we should. Please, listen, house rules, let everyone know where they can find you and where they can subscribe to you, my friend.
So in terms of me, as I say at the start, you can find me at Callum CFB on Twitter. The platform that I founded is called Football CFB. That's on Twitter at Football CFB. Football CFB is far more than just myself. I do the broadcast side. James Rowe, who you may know is a football writer, he reads the sort of written side, but I've also got a team of writers and current and former professionals. So you can find me at Callum CFB, but in terms of the platform itself, You'll find diversity there, and it's hopefully something for everyone, because as you've said, and as Nicole said there, football is like a big family. You might support Liverpool, you might support Arsenal, Manchester United, Everton, Celtic, Rangers, Hamburg, St. Pauli. It doesn't matter. There is more that unites us than divides us, and I think that's something that is important to remember. Keane, obviously, we've both talked about in this show. Keane's had fans of Liverpool on his show, Arsenal, you name it, he's had them on his show, and he welcomes them all the same. You welcome everyone the same. I try my best to do that as well. And you talked about doing this again anytime.
What a gentleman. Absolute gentleman. Guys, I'm not going to do the intro with the yeah. So all I'm going to say is that, look, guys, this is the quick message just to say positivity is contagious. Try and be positive. If you can't, reach out to someone 100%. You know, whether it be on any social media platform, whether it's WhatsApp, text, or anything, reach out, call, squeeze your loved ones tight. Whether you have kids, fiancés, spouses, whatever, reach out to someone, because you don't know until you see how well you are loved. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you so much for joining us. Please take care. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Tomorrow I am back with the hosts of the Beautiful Game podcast, Dej, Budge, and Dot. So we'll be talking about everything as we do on the Bitz and Bobz show. Thank you so much. Tomorrow will be the first Liverpool podcast on my show. I will not be involved. No, my cousin Vinci will be hosting that. Thank you so much, guys. Good night. God bless.
God bless everyone.